right on this spot here, stood the man, Sonny. Sharkskin suit, diamond pinky ring. Sonny had 5 fingers, but he only used 3.
This is Theater Talk. I'm Susan Haskins.
And I'm Michael Riedel of the New York Post.
Our guest created A Bronx Tale in 1989 off Broadway. He took a break to become a movie and television star, and now he's taking a little time to bring A Bronx Tale back to the Walter Kerr Theater on Broadway. Chazz Palminteri, welcome to Theater Talk.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Why did you choose now to bring A Bronx Tale to a wider audience?
I just really, and that's exactly the reason why, Susan. I thought not enough people saw it when I first did it, because I closed the show after only 4 months to sold-out audiences, but I wanted to start making money. I started getting offered movies at the time. So I already made a deal with Bronx Tale, and so I just wanted to start making some money. And I always felt I closed it too early. I said, you know, and over all these years that I've been an actor, so many people came over to me and said, oh, I saw the play, I love the play, and the movie, I love the movie, it changed my life. And I said, you know, there's a whole generation of people who never saw the original play.
That's right. We just knew the movie.
A lot of people don't realize that it was a play before a movie, and I think I'm young enough now where I can still do it. I said, you know what? I think I'm going to come back and do it again. And that's how it happened.
Why did the movie change people's lives?
Because I think my dad wrote on an index card when I was 9 years old, the saddest thing in life is wasted talent. And he put it in my room. And it really, this is the thing that made me, I think, be a success, because anytime I was about to quit, I always saw that card. And I just said, you know, you can't waste your talent. If you feel like you have this ability, you cannot waste it. And it was really the impetus that made me, you know, become a star and maybe become an actor. And so a lot of people see it and they catch that phrase and, you know, they go with it. So I think that's important.
How long had you been working as an actor before A Bronx Tale hit? I mean, you had a fair number of years of struggle.
Oh, yeah,
right?
absolutely struggling, yeah. You know, I don't know, maybe 7, doing off-Broadway, doing, you know, theater workshops, studying. And then, as any actor, it's very hard.
Making no money.
No money. No money at all. It's a hard profession, as we all know. But you keep going and you keep going. You wait for that one big break.
And all the time you were writing A Bronx Tale, I mean, how did it come about? Over the years, you wrote bits and vignettes.
No, not at all. I was I got to L.A. I was in New York, and then when I went out to L.A., I hit right away. I started doing Hill Street Blues, Matlock. I got on all the shows, you know, guest starring roles, and I said, wow, this is it. This is great. And all of a sudden, but then after I did all the shows, I wanted to try to get into feature films, and it's hard. It's really hard. And I started running out of money again, and then I got a job as a doorman. I was there for 4 months, and I got fired. And
you were a bad doorman?
No. In fact, I was the best doorman he ever had. But I'll tell you why I got fired. And I'll try to be quick. I'll tell you the story very quickly. I'm staring. There's 3 rules to being a doorman. If you break one of these rules, if someone breaks one of these rules, they never get into a club. Never. 1, they touch the velvet rope.
Right.
2, they say the words, do you know who I am? And 3, they get into the doorman's face. If you break any one of those rules, you'll never get into a really special club. I'm standing by the thing. A guy says, hey, I want to get in. I want to get in. So I walk over to I say, sir, could you have a little patience? He picks up the rope, puts it in my face, and says, do you know who I am? In 2 seconds, he broke all 3 rules. Okay? And I looked at him, I said, yes, I do know who you are. You are not getting in this club tonight. And he started yelling, and he goes, you are fired. Tonight, you're fired, because this is my party. I said, it's your party? I don't believe you. And all of a sudden, the boss walked out and went, Swifty. It was Swifty Lazar.
That is a great story.
You didn't recognize the glasses?
I didn't recognize the glasses. It was Swifty Lazar, and Chazz Palminteri 15 minutes later was driving home. He got fired. And I went back to my little dump apartment in North Hollywood, and I'm sitting there and I go, how could you not recognize Swifty Lazar, you know? And I'm sitting there, and finally I just said, you know, I said, I got no money, I'm running out of money in the bank. What the hell am I going to do? I was going to go back home to New York. Then I said, you know what? If they won't give me a great part, I'll write one myself. I got in my car. I went to Thrifty Drugstore on Ventura Boulevard. I came back with 5 legal tabs of paper. And I sat down and I said, I'll write myself a one-man show. This way they got to recognize, they got to notice me. And I said, well, what am I going to write about? And I remember this killing that I saw when I was 9 years old. This man killed a man right in front of me. And he was one of the neighborhood wise guys. And we kind of stared at each other. And from that moment on, there was always like this bond between us. And I remember my father being the working man and the mafia on one side. And I said, wow, it was so interesting because my father, we said, the working guy was the tough guy, not the mafia. It doesn't take much strength to pull the trigger. And I said, that's an interesting dynamic. The mafia, the working man, through the eyes of a young boy. And I started writing.
And you hadn't written anything before that?
I used to write, no, I used to write comedy when I was with the New York Comedy Players, a comedy group. I was one of the main writers. Me and this guy Tom Wiswell, we would write a lot, but I never wrote a play. And I started writing, and I would write 10 minutes of it. I performed it for my theater workshop, and they all loved it. And out of that 10 minutes, I kept the best of it, which was like about 6 minutes. And then each week I would write during the week, and I would perform another 10 minutes, and out of that 10, I would take 4. And I did that for almost a year. So I developed it and worked it with a live audience. And at the end of almost a year, I had 95 minutes of this one-man show that was really tight because I worked it. I kept rewriting, reworking, like we were talking. Rewrite, didn't work. Right, rewrite.
Throw it out.
Throw it out. Yeah. Take half of it. Take this of it. And at the end of a year, I had this strong show. And I called my friend up, and my friend sent me money to produce it. Peter Gation, who owned the Limelight nightclub. Because I worked there as a doorman in 1982.
Before Swifty.
Before Swifty.
And you didn't get fired from that.
I didn't get fired from there. Right. And I worked there for a little while, and he remembered me, and he sent me the money, and he believed in me, and I put on the play. My life changed like
completely.
Bam!
Now
this just exploded.
This is an iconic play. I mean, as you know, we were talking in the green room before. People come up to you around the world and recite lines from the play to you.
I've done 50 movies. I've been nominated for Academy Award for other movies. This is the movie they talk about.
It being iconic, would you remember what was the first, those first 10 pages you wrote? What was the very first thing you wrote?
The Killing.
The Killing. You wrote The Killing.
I was on
with the baseball bat?
The baseball bat, sitting on the stoop watching it when the boatman killed. That was the first thing I wrote, yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Now, did you... It is autobiographical, but in the play...
It's semi-autobiographical,
yes, in the play you become close to Sonny, the gangster who runs the neighborhood. Did you become close to this guy in real life?
I became close to a bunch of them, not just one in particular.
So Sonny is a composite of people?
It's a composite of... Well, Sonny's this one guy, but he's a composite of like 3 guys that I put all together, yes.
And how close were you to these guys? I mean, were you their runner, their errand boy, their...
I didn't work for them. I didn't do illegal things for them, but I would get coffee and make cappuccino, help out in the bar, do things like that.
Yeah, it's like Henry in Goodfellas, the beginning of Goodfellas.
And what was your father's sentiment at the time?
My father would stay away from those guys, and he said, come on, you know where you're going to end up. And I said, I'm not doing nothing. He says, just being around them, something will happen. And he's right.
So you understand more where your father was coming from.
I understand now.
Yeah.
You didn't at the time.
I didn't understand then. At 16 years old, it's like, how could people go, come on, these are the guys. You look at them, they dress nice, they got the girls, they got the money, and they take a liking to you. So all of a sudden, now people start treating you better. It's like if you were friends with the President of the United States, and all of a sudden you're walking with the President all the time, people start looking at you and say, oh, Michael, can I talk to you? They want to get close to you. And it was the same way. In the neighborhood, it was like this little city, this little medieval village. And when you had the emperor's ears, you were important.
When did you begin to realize, though, that what your father was saying about these guys was true?
When I saw, as I got a little older, after the character of Sonny died, after he died and a few other guys died and a lot of guys ended up in jail, I started to realize that, my dad's right. I mean, this is like, it's a nowhere thing. You end up dead or in jail. It's a simple thing. In the Bible, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. All these tough guys who were real tough guys, some of them got killed. They weren't that tough. There's always somebody tougher. Was
there ever an opportunity presented to you to go down the path with them to do something illegal?
No one ever. Could I have done it? Yes.
You could have.
I could have, absolutely. But no. There was always that thing, and my father always said, don't waste your talent. Don't hurt your mother and father. Always stayed in my head. So anytime I was about to do something, I just would pull back.
And they respected you, the wise guys, the mafia guys, if you said, listen, I don't want to...
Yes. See, the thing about the wise guys is if you say no all the time, it's okay. The wise guys, they don't like when you say yes, and then you say no. See, that you can't do. You can't do it for a while, then say, no, I don't want to do it no more.
Right.
That's not good. But if you say, no, that's not me, I can't do that, cool.
Interesting. Is there a danger here in, when you're writing about a character like Sonny, that he's becoming romanticized? Because I watch the audience around it, and they love him. They love Sonny.
Yes.
And there's a lot of stuff about your father and your father's warnings about him, but you know the audience thinks Sonny is the great guy. They want to be him.
Yes, but in the end, Sonny dies. You know, in the end, Sonny dies. And I'll tell you a quick funny story if I have time. I was in Beverly Hills once, and I'm walking by the Beverly Wilshire Hotel, and I'm just walking by, and the doorman says, "Hey, Chazz Palminteri, I love your movies." Hey, I said, "Hey, how you doing?" He goes, "Hey, you know what? They're doing a big conference in there on Italian-American movies, on Ma movies. You should go in." I went, "Really?" And I said, okay. So I walk into the Beverly Wilshire, and I find out where it is in this big ballroom, right? Mm-hmm. So I open up the ballroom door, I slip in the back, and I'm just standing there. And my hand to God, Susan Michael, if I'm lying to you, my hand to God. As soon as I walk in, I hear the guy go, "Well, let's talk about Bronx Tale." And there's all these professors on the board, you know? And people, certain professors, certain of the people from different places going, "I loved it." And the one guy goes, this professor goes, "I hated it. Hated the movie. It romanticized gangsters. It's everything wrong what they do in Italian-American films." I'm standing right there. He just opened his mouth. I'm standing right there. Like 2 seconds, I walked in, like a minute. And all of a sudden, some people from the back saw me, and the word got from in the back all the way up to the front that I was there. It was like a Woody Allen moment, I swear. As this guy's going, "I hated the movie, and he's trashing Bronx Tale. He's trashing it, right? And all of a sudden I see somebody walk over to the moderator and whisper in his ear, and I see him go like this. And he goes, and the guy finishes, he goes, "Well, that's very interesting." He goes, "Because just so happens, Mr. Chazz Palminteri just walked in." This guy's mouth drops. You see his mouth just drop. And there was a microphone in the middle, and they asked me if I wanted to make a comment. So I just walked in. I walk over to the microphone, and I say, "Thank you." Everybody's people were clapping. I said, "Look, thank you very much. Sorry to bother everybody." I said, I said to the professor, I said, "Look, I admire you, and you're a scholar, you're a gentleman." I said, "And look, movies like horse racing. You can like it and hate it. That's fine with you." I said, "But I have to be honest with you, you just didn't get it." I said, "Bronx Tale is a family movie. It's about the working man. It's about my father. It's a catharsis. Sonny dies. The boy realizes his dad was right." Mm-hmm. I said, to show the goodness, you have to show the bad. Yeah. Otherwise, there's no journey. I said, "So you just didn't get it, Professor, but I appreciate you." And I said, "Thank you very much."
You pulled out a gun and shot him.
Everybody applauded, and I left. And I walked right out. I just left. It was like one of those moments that could never, ever happen.
Fabulous.
I loved it. I loved it.
Doing a Bronx Tale almost 20 years later from the time you first did it, what have you found in it that you may not have realized when you were younger? Was there?
Well, now that I'm doing it, and it's really amazing because when I first did it, I was the boy relating to the father. Mm. Now that I'm married and I have a son, I have children, now I'm the father relating to the boy. Mm. It's different. I'm looking at the boy as opposed to looking at my father. Mm-hmm. You know, so my son Dante, who's 12, and my daughter Gabriella, she's 6, she's too young. But my son, who saw it, really understood the meaning of the saddest thing in life is wasted talent, yes.
And so you're happy that he's clear on the problems with Sonny.
He said to me, he said, "I won't waste my talent, Daddy, don't worry." You know, and that's exactly what I said to my father. So.
But when you saw this killing as a child,
yes,
were you at all frightened by the
No, that's the thing that I don't understand. People say, "Well, you had dreams, horror." I said, no, I just saw it and I was fine. Huh. I mean, did I go upstairs and was like, wow? But I was fine. I didn't have nightmares or anything, no.
That's interesting because you were young enough that then you could go and be friendly with these people. And,
yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, the only thing that I ever got reoccurrences about, whenever I'd be at a baseball game or sitting at a a field watching kids play softball and my son playing baseball, whenever I put my hands like this, sometimes it would flash in my head. But only when I would do that. I would think back at that moment, and then it'd just go away. It wouldn't bother me at all.
Wow.
Did you stay friendly with some of the wise guys over the years who didn't get killed or didn't go to jail?
Yeah.
Yeah. Then you became famous, and they come around.
Yeah.
Are they still in the? Are these guys still in the? Does a mobster ever retire, or once they're in it, they're always in it?
If they become bosses, then they, some of them go to jail, and some of them get out, and then they go back to jail, and then they get out. It's a non-stop thing. They go in and out.
Are you strangely a hero to them in some ways? Do they feel that you have carried their story on? Do they see themselves in Sonny?
I don't think so, no. I don't think I'm a hero to them. But they're like, hey, kid made good, neighborhood kid, hey, because they remember me as a little boy, so it's like, hey, big movie star, hey, how are you? I go, hey, how you doing?
Do they ever come up and say, we'd like to invest in your next show?
You don't do that. It's funny, I could tell you some stories about that.
Oh, tell us one. You don't have to name names.
There was one time when I first hit it, when I got nominated for Academy Award.
Bullets Over Broadway.
Bullets Over Broadway, and I was in the neighborhood to see some people, and I went to this bar where a lot of the guys were, and they said, oh yeah, they've been looking for you. They want to talk to you. So right away I know what that means. In my mind, I'm from there. I know what that means. It's not good. I said, whatever it is, it can't be good. And I said, all right. So they were there. They said, come in the back. So I went back and I sat down at dinner with all of them. We're sitting there. They said, oh, we're so happy. We're proud of you. Bum, bum, bum. I said, oh, great. Thanks. I really appreciate that. Meanwhile, I'm already knowing what's going to happen any second. They said, look, we have a friend out in California. I said, cool. And they said, yeah, he could help you a lot, and he could make some phone calls for you. And it was that moment right there, that second, right there, as we looked at, we're sitting here like this, face to face, that was my moment where I had to make a decision about my life. And I remember my father, I remember what he always said, and I just looked at them in the eye and I said, you know what, I really appreciate that, but at this stage in my career, I don't really need anybody to make a phone call for me anymore. I said, but thank you very much anyway. I said, that's really very nice of you, because I had to be respectful. And they said, you sure? And I said, yeah, I'm really sure. And I got up. I said, thanks a lot. I got to get going. Hey, it was really good to see you guys. And then one of them made a joke. He said, come on, let's go for a walk outside. You get a picture with the FBI. And I said, no, I don't need that. And I said,
I have photo approval now.
You said no.
I said no. And they just looked at me. I could tell they were like, they didn't like that, but they couldn't say nothing because I was a gentleman. And I said, hey, take care. Because I was a neighborhood guy, what could they do? And I said, take care, and I left.
You understood.
But it was that moment, because if I would have said yes, that would have been it. I would have been in bed with them, and I didn't want that.
You would have been like the singer in The Godfather.
There was no way. But it's that moment where you have to make a decision. And the only way I made that decision was the moment, because my mom and dad or my father always said, no, don't do it. And we just came, and I just said no.
And that's what A Bronx Tale's about. It's about the temptation is right there. The world is right there for you.
That's why fathers, especially fathers and parents, should take their kids to see it 12 and up, because it tells them, don't waste your life, that you already have the talent. That it's not like a lot of motivational speakers, they tell you, you got to be you got to do, look, you got to do all those things.
Right.
But my theory is, my father's theory and mine, is to tell children, you already have the gift. It's not to blow it. Don't blow it.
Right.
You could be anything you want to be. Just don't blow it. In Bronx Tale, when he says at the end, the saddest thing in life, he says, I learned something from these two men. I learned the saddest thing in life is wasted talent, and the choices you make will shape your life forever. But you could ask anybody from my neighborhood, and they'll tell you, this is just another Bronx Tale. He's telling them that this is just another story. All kids go through this. That's why I think this movie resonates so well. That's why I think people, after 50 movies, they still talk about Bronx Tale. And to see it on stage, it's very visceral. It's like raw. It's in your face. I mean, the movie. Some people came over to me and said, "We'd love to play more than the movie." And I have to say, and Jerry Sachs, who directed it, did an incredible job. Jerry Sachs knows funny. I mean, the play is funnier than the play is funnier than the movie.
I was going to ask you, are those sets? Is that your stoop? The real stoop? Did they go up to your neighborhood on what, at Belmont and 187th Street?
The original stoop. The stoop is not like that anymore. But the stoop was much bigger than, the way it is there now is like the classic stoop in my neighborhood, yes.
And if you go back to the neighborhood still?
I go back once a month.
Really?
I go back shopping. I go shopping there.
Is the bar still there? Shea?
No. Shea Joey?
Shea
No,
Joey?
it's not there no more.
What's in its place?
Not that. Oh, I don't know. I think a real estate agency.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah. It's an incredible. I love that neighborhood. I love my childhood, 187th and Belmont, because it's who I am and what I am.
Yeah.
And it's the great stories that I grew up with, and all these great stories.
Is your father still alive?
Yeah, my father's 88.
So he lived to see the success of this? And
yes, my father's 88, my mom's 87.
What was his reaction when he first saw Bronx Tale, this play about him?
He was very moved.
Yeah.
My father was a bus driver, you know, and I would sit behind him all the time. He would try to get me off the street, say, come on the bus. And I would go, oh, Dad. And I would jump on the bus and I would sit behind him, you know. He just figured he'd get me out of the street for a couple of hours, you know, because he knew, you know, it was a safe neighborhood, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I don't want to make people think that it was this incredible ghetto. It wasn't. It was a beautiful Italian neighborhood. Just sometimes you know, things could happen there.
Yeah. You have a very dramatic moment in the play where the boy is dating a black girl.
Yes.
And he kind of brings the subject up with his father.
Yes.
And the father says, you know,
no,
I have nothing against them, but no, you're not gonna date.
Well, that was my father believed and he wasn't a racist at all, and he loved all people, black people, white people. I watched my father help black old women on the bus and care for them and make sure but when it came to his son dating a black girl, no. So I thought that was really interesting, as much as he loved everyone. But that was one part of him he couldn't let go.
How did he feel about seeing that part of himself portrayed in the play?
He says, well, you know, at that time, that's what I felt, you know, and I understood that. He said, you know, you realize where we came from. We didn't have that. Nobody mixed marriage when my father was, you know, my father's from Sicily, my father, they didn't do it. Nobody did that. You know, so to them, it was like, wow.
So that was true when you were growing up. Your
yes.
girlfriend was a black girl.
She was a black girl, 16 years old. I was 17, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's a very compelling moment. I just wondered what your father's reaction to seeing that part of his life portrayed on stage was.
To his defense, he said, you have to understand, son. He says, we never had that, me and your mother. We never saw that. But I thought that's very interesting. People always go, oh, I'm not a racist. Oh, I'm not prejudiced. Well, all right. Could your daughter date a black girl? Is that okay? Or could your son date a black girl? Well, no. Well, wait a minute now.
Yeah.
Then I guess you are.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting. You know, so that's why I wrote about it. Because I wanted to show how racism is bred down from generation to generation. How those kids that I grew up with hated black people. And that's because their fathers did.
And now you're doing it in a year when we may have a black president.
Yes.
Well, what's actually fascinating, too, is that the audience, when I went to see it last night, a lot of African Americans who recite all the lines, who love the character of Sonny, who love A Bronx Tale.
A lot of Afro Americans, and they love A Bronx Tale. A lot of interracial couples. A lot of interracial couples come to see it. And I'm so happy for that. I love that. Because it's important. Racism is a very important issue with me. And I want to show how, you know, no one's born a racist. You're taught to be a racist. Your father, your mother teach you to be a racist. I was blessed with parents who were good, except for that one little thing about me dating a black girl. But other than that, my father said, everyone's equal. You have to treat everyone the same. So, and I believe in that. I believe in that.
I'm afraid we got to wrap it up, but did you have any desire to write another play?
Well, I wrote a play called Fateful right after that.
Oh, right, that's right.
Yes, which became a movie too. And it's a great play, but I never did it in New York. It's been done in 14 countries, 14 different languages it's been translated into. And it's a wonderful play. And I've been talking to Jerry about it. I've been thinking maybe about doing it again. Doing it in New York. I never did it in New York.
It's a one-character play?
Three characters. Three characters. So, yes, and I think it's a terrific play.
And rooted in the neighborhood, too, and what you grew up with and knew? Or?
It's about a wise guy who goes to this house, a rich house, and kidnaps this woman, and they have this discussion with the husband. And you don't know who's telling the truth. It's pretty good. I think it's really good.
You don't say so yourself, yeah.
I think it's pretty good. Well, it was done, like I said, in 14 different languages, so people like it. So.
Yeah, that's how it works.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Chazz Palminteri is in his terrific play, Bronx Tale, at the Walter Kerr Theater. You're running until?
February 24th.
February 24th. Well, don't miss it. It's a treat to have it back in New York.
Oh, thanks a lot.
Thank you for being our guest tonight.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Great.
Come here, Claudio. Get over here. You know, we got to do something about your name. Come here, kid. We got to do something about your name. It's a little too big. We got to cut it down, Claudio. I say we call you C. Yeah, C. C for Claudio. And A C note for C. Put this in your kick. Don't tell nobody where you got it. Go ahead. Come on. That's $100, Sonny. I never had $100 before in my life, man. That's okay, kid. I never had a kid. What? What, Sonny? Never mind that. I never had a kid before. No, never. Listen to me. Go ahead. You get home. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go home. It's getting late. Go ahead. I'll tell everybody in the neighborhood that's your new name. All right. See you around. See?